Hegseth continued. 1410, more F-18s launched. Second strike package. Hegseth is trying to impress the group chat like he's the brother of the groom trying to fit in during the bachelor weekend. You know what I'm saying? Like, no business. That information did not need to be shared. He seemed like he wanted to seem cool in front of his new friends. Love it or leave it. But first, let's get into it. What a week! On Monday, The Atlantic's editor-in-chief Jeffrey Goldberg reported one of the wildest stories of our time. He had accidentally been added to a Signal group chat where U.S. national security leaders were planning military strikes in Yemen. Part of what makes this so incredible is that Trump fucking hates The Atlantic. It'd be like if someone on my team accidentally looped in Samuel Alito. Why was Supreme Court Justice Samuel Alito in your contacts, Hallie? The group congratulated each other following the strike, with National Security Advisor Michael Waltz sending 3 emojis: fist, American flag, fire. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth replied with a martini emoji, followed by 5 more martini emojis, followed by car emoji. A bad sign. The shocking lapse led to outrage amongst national security experts and Democrats. Here's Pete Buttigieg.
And to see this administration claiming that it cares about competence and merit, and then be responsible for an epic fuck-up like this, demonstrates that these are not serious people.
How dare you say we're not serious? We're deadly serious about the deal you can get on a new Tesla, said Donald Trump. Hillary Butter Emails Clinton posted the article with an eyeballs emoji, writing, "You have got to be kidding me." Then the usher at And Juliet told her to put her phone away. But it was worth it. Republicans, meanwhile, vacillated between the mildest of criticisms and declaring the whole fiasco a hoax. House Speaker Mike Johnson called the Signal chat a mistake, but when asked whether Waltz and Hegseth should be disciplined, replied, no, of course not. There's no reason to discipline these men, Johnson continued, a little lump in his throat. There's no reason to teach these boys a lesson. A little strange. In a press conference the next day, Johnson said of Waltz, "He was born for the job. He is highly qualified. The president said he has total confidence in him, and we do as well. And this man was born to be a surgeon," said Mike Johnson, watching a guy drop a kidney on the floor, then kick it across the OR, and then when he tries to grab it, he accidentally knocks the IV out of a patient's arm, sending a streak of blood across the faces of several gobsmacked nurses. Hegseth was asked about the story on Monday and said this.
Can you share how your information about war plans against the Houthis in Yemen was shared with a journalist in The Atlantic? And were those details classified?
You're talking about a deceitful and highly discredited so-called journalist who's made a profession of peddling hoaxes time and time again.
Hegseth continued, "Hey, please write down that I shared classified information with someone who is bad." Also, at this point, the White House has admitted that the group chat is real. It's too late to say a hoax. The hoax ship has sailed, and you've leaked its coordinates. Trump reportedly is fuming in private, but tried to play down the whole mess in public.
The main thing was nothing happened. The attack was totally successful. It was, I guess, from what I understand, took place during, and it wasn't classified information. So this was not classified. Now, if it's classified information, it's probably a little bit different. But I always say you have to learn from every experience.
That's that wise energy we always get from Donald Trump. It's not about how much you make, it's about what you learn. It's about being curious. That's what he's always said. You know, think of every job opportunity as a chance to learn and grow in your field. It was an honest mistake, sharing classified attack plans with a random journalist on a group thread using an insecure platform while several of the participants were out of the country, including in Russia, on personal devices that are almost certainly compromised in a way that could have gotten Americans killed. But it's not dangerous, like publishing an op-ed critical of Israel in a college newspaper. That shit should destroy your life. By delightful coincidence, 5 of the nation's top intelligence officials, including Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard and CIA Director John Ratcliffe, both of whom were on the Signal group chat, were already scheduled to appear before the Senate Intelligence Committee on Tuesday. Gabbard claimed not to recall any discussion of specific weapons targets or timing and refused to answer if she joined the chat from her personal phone or government phone.
Were you overseas during any parts of these discussions?
Yes, Senator, I was.
Were you using your private phone or a public phone for the Signal discussions?
I won't speak to this because it's under review.
This is the review. You're at it. Look around. You're being asked questions in front of a congressional committee that oversees your agency. If you're meeting with HR and they're asking, did you take all the Baby Bell cheeses from the office kitchen home with you? You can't say, this is not the time or the place. Babe, it's the time. It's the place. Where's our fucking cheese? Later on Tuesday, Waltz went on Fox News and took full responsibility for accidentally adding a journalist to the Signal chat. I'm kidding, of course. He said this.
How did a Trump-hating editor of The Atlantic end up on your Signal chat?
You know, Laura, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but of all the people out there, somehow this guy who has lied about the president, who has lied to Gold Star families, lied to their attorneys, and gone to Russia hoax, gone to just all kinds of links to lie and smear the president of the United States, and he's the one that somehow gets on somebody's contact and then gets sucked into this group.
Bitch, do you think Jeffrey Goldberg is the Riddler? When pressed, Waltz offered this explanation of how Goldberg wound up in the chat.
So you don't know what staffer is responsible for this right now?
Well, look, a staffer wasn't responsible.
Yeah, but how did the number
Have
get
you ever
in the
had
chat?
Have you ever had somebody's contact that shows their name and then you have somebody else's number
I never
there?
make those mistakes.
Right? You've got somebody else's number on someone else's contact. So of course I didn't see this loser in the group. It looked like someone else. Now whether he did it deliberately or it happened in some other technical mean is something we're trying to figure out.
Totally. One quick follow-up. What? Jeff is a middle-aged journalist from The Atlantic. I think if you told him right now that to get a big scoop, he had to sign and return a PDF over email, you've got like a 50-50 shot. Also, you're a 51-year-old man calling somebody a loser because you fucked up. Jeffrey Goldberg did nothing wrong. You are lucky that he was incredibly responsible. He didn't report it before the mission. He redacted the portions that were classified until you claimed they weren't. You should be thanking Jeffrey Goldberg. It's not his fault. He's saved in your phone as News Jew, and then his name popped up when you tried to add War Jew to the chat. But these bumbling oafs can't even agree on a lie. Here's Donald Trump just hours later claiming that it was a staffer who was responsible.
What it was, we believe, is somebody that was on the line with permission, somebody that was with Mike Waltz, worked for Mike Waltz at a lower level, had, I guess, Goldberg's number or called through the app, and somehow this guy ended up on the call.
So first of all, he thinks it's a call. Well, I'll tell you, it sounds like we need a few fewer Let's Bomb Yemen Signal chats and a few more Let's Get Our Fucking Story Straight Google Meets. After Trump and national security officials denied that classified information was shared in the Signal chat, Goldberg on Wednesday published a text that he had initially withheld, writing, "People should see the text in order to reach their own conclusions." Hell yeah. More like Hefe Goldberg. Anyway, here are the texts Hegseth sent in a Signal chat with a journalist in it before the U.S. attacked Houthi targets. Time now, 11:44 ET. Weather is favorable. Just confirmed with CENTCOM we are go for missile launch. 12:15 ET. F-18's launch. First strike package. 13:45 trigger-based. F-18 first strike window starts. Target terrorist is at his known location, so should be on time. Also, strike drones launch. MQ-9s. Look, I don't know all the rules about what's classified and what's not, but I do know that if Philip and Elizabeth Jennings got a hold of this kind of information on an episode of The Americans, Margot Martindale would come in her pants. Hegseth continued. 14:10 more F-18s launch, second strike package. 14:15 strike drones on target. This is when the first bombs will definitely drop. Hegseth is trying to impress the group chat like he's the brother of the groom trying to fit in during the bachelor weekend. You know what I'm saying? Like, no business. That information did not need to be shared. He seemed like he wanted to seem cool in front of his new friends. Now we just heard that level of detail, right? Let's circle back to that Senate hearing for a moment.
Was there any mention, Ms. Gabbard, of a weapon or weapons system?
I don't recall specific weapons systems being named.
I'm not talking about specific, any weapon or weapon system.
I don't recall specific names of systems or weapons being used.
I think I understand what's happening. If you have a question about weapon stuff, you have to ask Gabbard's innie. I will say, Gabbard claiming not to recall messages she got 2 weeks ago is credible to me. Gabbard feels like one of those people with 300 unread texts. You forget she's even in the group chat until she pops up 3 days later with a "Great job in Yemen, everyone. I lost my phone at the Kremlin, LOL." Following Goldberg's release of the damning specifics, intelligence officials were back in Congress to do some cleanup. Here's Tulsi again.
My answer yesterday was based on my recollection, or the lack thereof, on the details that were posted there. I was not, and what was shared today reflects the fact that I was not directly involved with that part of the Signal chat.
So it's your testimony that less than 2 weeks ago, you were on a Signal chat that had all of this information about F-18s and MQ-9 Reapers and targets on strike, and you in that 2-week period simply forgot that that was there. That's your testimony?
My testimony is I did not recall the exact details of what was included there.
Totally. One quick follow-up. Huh? Hegseth, for his part, continued to deny that any classified information was shared in the chat.
Nobody's texting war plans. There's no units, no locations, no routes, no flight paths, no sources, no methods, no classified information.
And furthermore, I did not have a drink. There's no bitters, no vermouth, no schnapps, no olives, no lemon peels, no maraschino cherries. You accuse me of drinking, but where are the maraschino cherries? Hegseth moves the pawn diagonally 7 spaces, knocking over a rook and a bishop before resting next to the queen. Checkmate, bitches. A defense official familiar with the operation told reporters that the information Hegseth disclosed was indeed highly classified when he disclosed it, and could have put lives at risk because the operation hadn't even begun. But you knew that. You knew that because you have never read in the newspaper that American F-18s will be on their way to bomb something in 2 hours. You have only heard about it after the fact because you do not have a security clearance, and you are not Atlantic editor-in-chief Jeffrey Goldberg. Attorney General Pam Bondi on Thursday did her part as a Trump lackey, opposing an investigation and claiming that the details of forthcoming strikes in Yemen were not classified.
If you want to talk about classified information, talk about what was at Hillary Clinton's home that she was trying to bleach a bit, talk about the classified documents in Joe Biden's garage that Hunter Biden had access to.
Yeah, we talked about that. Now we're talking about this, because this just happened. We talk about new stuff more than the old stuff, because we already talked about the old stuff. In 2016, we talked about Arrival and her emails. In 2025, we're talking about Severance, and we're talking about this. It's neither here nor there, but Pam Bondi is 59. She looks incredible. It's kind of terrifying, actually. Most of Trump's goons slowly look on the outside like they do on the inside, these sort of barely upright, screeching gargoyles, or vaguely like Ellen Burstyn in the third act of Requiem for a Dream. Speaking of defying the laws of God and man, on Monday, the Justice Department once again refused to provide Judge James Boasberg additional information about 2 flights of Venezuelan immigrants sent to El Salvador in violation of his temporary ban. In their response to his request, Bondi, along with Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Homeland Security Secretary and former dog owner Kristi Noem, invoked the state secret's privilege, claiming that revealing flight details would potentially threaten national security. So I guess we all now sit tight and wait for somebody to accidentally add Maggie Haberman to the deportation Slack. On Monday, a D.C. appeals court heard arguments about the Trump administration's use of the Alien Enemies Act for these deportations. Said federal appeals judge Patricia Millett, there were plane loads of people. There were no procedures in place to notify people. Nazis got better treatment under the Alien Enemies Act. And you should see how they treat the Nazis now. Added Millett, Y'all could have picked me up on Saturday and thrown me on a plane thinking I'm a member of Tren de Aragua and given me no chance to protest it and say somehow it's a violation of presidential war powers for me to say, excuse me, no, I'm not. I'd like a hearing. And don't write that down in your planner. I can see counsel writing that down. Give him any ideas. On Wednesday, Noem toured El Salvador's terrorism confinement center, the 40,000 inmate prison where Trump has sent the Venezuelans, like she does every month to relax and unwind. Only this time, a film crew was there. During her visit, Noem posed in front of dozens of shirtless men with shaved heads made to stand behind her for the photo op.
I also want everybody to know, if you come to our country illegally, this is one of the consequences you could face.
Having to meet me, Kristi Noem. She posed in front of Salvadorian prisoners held indefinitely by the right-wing government there, not the Venezuelans the administration claims are gang members, nor the several people the administration has kidnapped, even though they had applied for immigration status through legal means and seem to only be guilty of having unrelated tattoos, including this tattoo about autism awareness. On the bright side, a lot of guys in Tren de Aragua are going to be a little bit more aware of autism. Those hostages were never given a chance to notify family or call lawyers or speak to a judge, and have no idea that right now there are people fighting for their freedom. They're just trapped in an Orwellian nightmare with no visitors or ways to communicate with the outside world in a country that is not their own with no end in sight. Punchline TBD. Now Republicans are trying to claim that by talking about this or being upset about this, we're falling into a trap. No, we already fell in the trap. The election was a big pit covered with fucking leaves, and we fell in it. And we don't totally know how to get out. But I'm casting my lot with the people clawing at the walls, not the people sitting in the center, hoping somebody else will figure it out. Punchline TBD. Love It or Leave It is brought to you by Fast Growing Trees. Did you know that Fast Growing Trees is the biggest online nursery in the U.S. with thousands of different plants and over 2 million happy customers? They have all the plants your yard needs, like fruit trees, privacy trees, flowering trees, shrubs, and so much more. Whatever plants you're interested in, Fast Growing Trees has you covered. Find the perfect fit for your climate and space. Fast Growing Trees makes it easy to get your dream yard. Order online and get your plants delivered directly to your door in just a few days without ever leaving home. Their Alive and Thrive guarantee ensures your plants arrive happy and healthy. Plus, get support from trained plant experts on call to help you plan your landscape, choose the right plants, and learn how to care for them. I'm very excited about Fast Growing Trees. I think sometimes thinking about how to plant in your yard can be daunting and overwhelming because you don't know what to do and you don't know how to do it. But this is a really great way to try and learn. And you don't have to go to a nursery and feel like you're not sure what you're doing. You can just go with Fast Growing Trees, and they have the guarantee. So check it out. And this spring, they have the best deals for your yard, up to half off on select plants and other deals. And listeners to our show get 15% off their first purchase when using the code LOVEIT at checkout. That's an additional 15% off at fastgrowingtrees.com using the code LOVEIT at checkout. Fastgrowingtrees.com, code LOVEIT. Now's the perfect time to plant. It's spring. Use Love It to save today. Offer is valid for a limited time. Terms and conditions may apply. Love It or Leave It is brought to you by Via. If you haven't tried Via yet, you're seriously missing out. Whether you need to unwind, refocus, or just pretend you have your life together, Via is here to enhance your everyday. And let's be honest, probably your night too. 500,000 happy customers can't be wrong. Via is changing the game in natural wellness, combining high-quality hemp-derived ingredients with powerful cannabinoids to create real effect-driven results. Want better sleep, more focus, a little boost in the bedroom, or maybe you just need to chill out because you're boosting the bedroom.
Yeah, just throw that right in.
Wow. Or maybe you just need to chill out because your stress levels are currently at screaming into the void status. Whatever you need, Via has a solution for you. And here's the best part. Via lets you customize your experience. Whether you're looking for daily wellness, laser focus, or deep relaxation, Via has it. What if you're someone screaming into the void in the bedroom? With products ranging from 0 to high cannabinoid levels, they've got options for everybody. We're talking award-winning effect-forward gummies to calming drops, all made with organic, lab-tested hemp from trusted independent American farms. And you don't have to jump through hoops or get some weird doctor's note. Via legally ships nationwide discreetly. No medical card required, no sketchy parking lot meetups. Okay.
Weird.
Yeah, just straight to your door with a worry-free guarantee. Not sure where to start? No worries. Via has a product finder quiz that will hook you up with the perfect match in less than 60 seconds. So if you're 21 plus, check out the link to Via in our description and use the code LOVEIT to receive 15% off, free shipping on orders over $100. And if you're new to Via, get a free gift of your choice. After your purchase, they ask you where you heard about them. Please support our show and tell them we sent you. Enhance your everyday with Via. On Friday, Columbia University caved to the Trump administration, which had demanded a number of policy changes in order to restore $400 million in unrelated federal funding. This includes placing the curriculum and hiring decisions of the university's Middle East Studies Department, among several others, in control of a new provost. Also, Women and Gender Studies is now called the Ugly Woke Bitches Department. It's too far. It's too far. Remember when conservatives worried about free speech on campus? You would think they might notice that the president determining hiring decisions in particular departments of a private university might be some kind of an infringement on free inquiry, free association, and freedom of speech. And yet they don't seem to care. Isn't that amazing? Isn't that amazing that after all these years about hearing about the threat to free speech on campus, it turns out it was students yelling. That was the threat, not the federal government telling a university in Manhattan, no less, who can be in charge of various departments, setting policy. The president of the United States, who should be busier, is basically making himself a board member of Columbia University, making specific policy decisions about what happens on this private campus. And Columbia, this institution of higher learning, this American institution, as old as the country, supposedly a defender of liberal values, small L liberal values, basic free inquiry, the freedom of expression, of curiosity, of intellectual enterprise. They fucking cave. They fucking cave, which means they're more afraid of Trump than they're afraid of their alumni, than they're afraid of their faculty, than they're afraid of their students. I wonder if they're right, because right now it seems like they're right. It seems like they're right to be more afraid of Trump than they are of the people, because there were a lot of protests at Columbia last year. Where are the protests now? Donald Trump is daring us. Every day he's daring us. And I'm part of it. I'm part of I care about this. I pay attention to this, but I'm part of the problem because every day I treat like a normal day. I'm being part of the problem. All of us do. And there's nothing wrong with that. We have to live our lives, but he is doing just enough. He is going dark enough. He is going far enough, just to the edge of where it would be unacceptable for us to have a normal night. But we all do. Right? We pay attention. We think the news is harrowing. Let's talk about something else. We're all doing that. We're all doing it every day. I'm not saying we're wrong. I'm not judging it. I'm doing the same thing. But how much worse does it have to get before it feels strange to just be in a restaurant? It's not that much worse. But he knows that. They know that. Maybe it's purposeful. Maybe it's the luck of this kind of reckless, haphazard way of doing business. Maybe it's the combination of their malevolence and incompetence. But they are doing just enough to scare us, to threaten us, but to let us at night turn on our fucking Real Housewives, all right, and turn our brains off. And to have the normal parts of our lives, right? To plan a trip over the summer, to plan a wedding. And I don't know how much longer that can go on. But right now, those of us that are paying attention are wondering why so many others who aren't paying attention don't think it's so bad. And a little bit of that is on us. And I don't know what it's going to take, and I don't know how bad it gets before we wake up. But the test for all of us is going to be what it looks like when we actually wake up. And I don't know what the answer is, but I think it starts by wondering what it will take for institutions, even the craven, feckless, pathetic, valueless institutions, are more scared of us than they are of Donald Trump. Because right now, they are correct to be more scared of Donald Trump. And at some point, that has to change. And I don't know what it looks like, but it has to change. I'll tell you one place where we're trying to change it is, so I went to Wisconsin just to kind of knock on doors, be part of these canvases to see what's happening there as they're fighting the Supreme Court race. And one of the reasons it's so important is Elon Musk has dropped $13 million into this Wisconsin Supreme Court race. Why? So that they can install a MAGA guy on the Supreme Court, someone that will rule in Musk's favor. They have a lawsuit in Wisconsin, but also somebody that will make sure that they have that if they challenge elections, that they have a favorable court, someone that'll put back in place an abortion ban, someone that will make sure that they don't have fair maps in Wisconsin. Wisconsin had this gerrymandered both assembly map and congressional map. Wisconsin is 50-50 state, famously. It goes back and forth, right? They have 6 Republican members of Congress and 2 Democrats. 6-2. It's a 50-50 state. Why? Because the supermajority in the Republican legislature drew those maps. And we finally have a chance. We have a progressive majority on that court that just put in place fair assembly maps. It allowed Democrats to pick up a bunch of seats and break that supermajority. The same thing could happen for the congressional maps. Not saying Republicans won't, they'll be able to win their seats. It just won't be as unfair. They'll have to fight for them. And they don't want that. They want to take back that court. And right now, a bunch of Republicans in that state and a bunch of Republicans across the country are watching. What's going to matter more? Is it going to be people being angry at what Musk and Trump are doing? Or is it going to be Musk's money that wins the day? Because if the money wins, then all these House members who are going to have to decide whether or not to vote for reconciliation, are going to have to decide whether or not to vote for tax cuts for billionaires and Medicaid cuts, even though it's bad for their constituents. They have to decide, what are they more afraid of? Are they afraid of Musk dropping money on their heads in a primary and standing with their voters? Or are they going to stick with Musk, have Musk money in the fall of 2026 to protect them from the wrath of the voters when they do something awful for their district? And what's happening in Wisconsin is one of the first big tests of that, which is why if you're hearing this and you have friends in Wisconsin, text them. Text anyone you know who lives in Wisconsin to make sure they turn out and vote for Judge Susan Crawford to protect abortion, protect democracy, and stop Elon Musk from buying an election. If you want to do something in the last days, this election is on Tuesday, April 1st. Go to Vote Save America and sign up. We have to win this. If we want to turn the tide, it's going to start there. Okay. And it was great, by the way. And if anybody listening to this came out, it was great to see you. It's also, by the way, anyone listening, find one of these events, go to these town halls, go to these gatherings where Republicans aren't having town halls. We have to get out of our houses. We have to get off our phones. We have to be among people. The phones are a big part of the problem. Expecting to think we can solve this from our fucking screens is the problem. So if you're hearing this, go to votesaveamerica.com, find a town hall, get out of your house, go be among people. Solidarity is not just about politics. It's about the kind of communities we live in, the society we live in. You can't make it at home. So please, please, please go to Vote Save America and sign up. All right. On Wednesday, a video of Tufts student and Turkish national Remeza Öztürk being arrested by masked ICE agents hit the internet. First, you only get into Tufts. And then this. That's all right. On Thursday, Marco Rubio confirmed that Öztürk's F1 visa had been revoked for her activism. Here's what he told reporters.
Every country in the world has a right to decide who comes in as a visitor and who doesn't. Well, we're going to do the same thing if you come into the United States as a visitor and create a ruckus for us. We don't want it. We don't want it in our country. Go back and do it in your country. But you're not going to do it in our country.
So there's no evidence she was actually involved in any of what he criticized. He talked about vandalism, arrests, occupying buildings. She wrote an op-ed, and others who might share that opinion were a party to a ruckus. What the fuck is a ruckus? What's the standard here? You are associated with a ruckus? You are loosely affiliated with a ruckus? Can you be deported for a hullabaloo? Can you be arrested by plainclothes officers for having attended a brouhaha? To put this in context, Axios reported Thursday that the Trump administration is considering banning all foreign students from schools that it has deemed as having too many students who are, in their words, pro-Hamas. An official even threatened the possibility of decertifying colleges and universities altogether. And then what happens? Where did all the late bloomers go to lose their virginity? Trade schools? Those kids all fucked in high school. Speaking of people that did not fuck in high school, Vice President J.D. Vance said Tuesday that he will accompany his wife Usha on a visit to Greenland later this week, after the announcement of her trip was met with criticism. This was supposed to be a girls' trip, screamed Ramona over a Pinot Grigio. On Wednesday, the Vances reportedly changed their travel itinerary, limiting their trip to Greenland's only American military base, U.S. Space Force outpost, Pitafik. Yes, you simply must go to Pitafik in the spring. I've heard they have an incredible Domino's pizza. Said Danish Foreign Minister Lars Rasmussen, I actually think it's very positive that the Americans are canceling their visit to the Greenlandic community. They will instead make a visit to their own base, Pitafik, and we have nothing against that. You can't tell because the Danish people are so polite, but he just told J.D. Vance to kill himself. According to a Danish journalist, American officials knocked on doors in Nuuk ahead of the Vance's visit to find local families open to welcoming the second lady, but found no takers. But of course they don't. They don't have any powers until you invite them in. Has no one seen Buffett? They were all invited. They were seniors. Oh, you were talking about the show? I'm only talking about the movie. People talking about the show. I'm only talking about the movie. The movie's fucking great. Here at home, the White House has invited corporations to sponsor its Easter egg roll next month, asking companies to pay between $75,000 and $200,000 for branded snacks, logo placements at the event, and for the biggest spenders, tickets to have brunch with Melania. And get this, $500,000 gets you dinner with Don Jr., and for $1 million, you can skip it. In the White House's defense, doing this kind of sponsorship was the only way they could afford to buy that many eggs. It's about prices. Pope Francis, who is still alive, made his first public appearance on Sunday before being discharged from the hospital where he has spent the last 5 weeks being treated for pneumonia. He's doing great. It's wonderful news for the Pope, terrible news for my Pope pool. I don't have a Pope pool. The head of the Pope's medical team told reporters that the Pope came so close to death at one point that his doctors considered stopping treatment to let him die in peace. But in response, Pope Francis said, "No." No. I'm all right here. It's not Italian. DoorDash announced a new partnership with Klarna, which will allow users to pay for their food in installments over time. Using a payment plan to buy a cold cheeseburger delivered by a school teacher trying to make rent, that's the second ingredient on the New York Times cooking app recipe for perfectly al dente Luigi's. From building a recipe over time. You have to listen over many episodes to understand the recipe. In other financial news about companies taking advantage of people when they're literally out of cash, the Senate voted to stop the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau from capping overdraft fees to $5. The rule could have saved hundreds of dollars for people who overdraw their accounts, but the bank successfully lobbied Republicans to keep their overdraft fees coming, which brought almost $6 billion in revenue in 2023. Just want to say, so far, we're getting a lot more national than we're getting socialism, if you ask me. I thought they'd sprinkle in a little more Z in with the nah. You know what I'm saying? It's a lot of nah, not enough Z. It's the whole promise. A little bit of Z. Kermit the Frog. You find trying light stories. Kermit the Frog will deliver the commencement address at the University of Maryland this spring. Kermit was a last-minute replacement after they originally had booked Animal, who had to step down from the gig due to a series of racist and anti-Semitic messages he left in the comment section of nudeafrica.com. Strange. And finally, the Washington Post wrote an ode to the centennial bulb, an incandescent light bulb that has been burning since 1901 and has only been turned off a few times in its 124-year lifespan, each time with the assistance of 32 Polacks. It seems like just yesterday I was screwing it in for the first time, reminisced Joe Biden.